There's a strange silence in a child's eyes when they learn what betrayal tastes like. It was a Sunday afternoon, the kind of warm, lazy day meant for rest and laughter. We were at my parents' house, an immaculate Tousse, Dory home with polished wooden floors and the faint scent of rose, scented air freshener. Everything was as it always was, perfect on the surface, rotten underneath. The table was already set when we arrived. A large roasted chicken in the center, side dishes still steaming, cloth napkins folded into fans, and silverware that gleamed like treasure. My sister Aria's voice rang out from the kitchen, as musical and sweet as ever. "Oh, you're finally here." She smiled at me, not unkindly, but distant, like someone tolerating a stranger's company. My 2 children, Liam and Maya, were quiet as they followed me in. Their clothes were clean, if a little worn. Maya clutched a book she always carried, and Liam's eyes darted to the food like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to look at it. They weren't used to being fed here. "Come, come, sit." My mother waved us in with her usual false cheer. She wore pearls and lipstick, though it was just family. Aria's kids were already seated, giggling, pushing each other playfully. My mother placed 2 full plates in front of them, roasted chicken legs, buttery mashed potatoes, soft rolls, and green beans dressed in olive oil. Then she turned to my children and said the words I will never forget. "Your sister's good kids eat first." She didn't even look at me. She walked past my son, who had half stood, instinctively reaching out when he saw the platter. His hand hung midair before he slowly sat back down. His eyes didn't fill with tears, but they dimmed just a little. That was worse. I watched in silence as my mother laid a small plate in front of my children. A few pieces of dry bread, no butter, no meat, nothing warm. Aria said nothing. My father chuckled softly and started eating. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I took a roll off my plate, my meager charity plate, and tore it in half. Gave one half to Liam, the other to Maya. "Eat slowly," I said gently. They nodded, no questions, just quiet, obedient acceptance. My heart cracked in places I didn't know were still whole. It wasn't the first time. Aria had always been the queen of the household. When we were kids, she'd spill juice and blame me. I'd get grounded. She'd demand expensive clothes, and our parents would find the money even if it meant cutting into my school supply budget. They smiled when she interrupted, bragged, lied. They said she was full of personality. I was told to be grateful for what I had. When I turned 16, I worked part. Time to buy my own school books. Aria got a car on her birthday. When I got married, they called it a mistake. When Aria did, it was the wedding of the year. Even when my husband died, young and sudden from cancer, I didn't get sympathy. Just advice: you need to be strong, don't expect help. I didn't expect it, but it still hurt when none came. After dinner, while Aria and her kids ran off to watch TV, and my parents cleaned up the dishes without looking my way, Maya tugged at my sleeve. She looked up at me, her tiny fingers gripping my coat, and asked, "Why don't Grandma and Grandpa love us?" I swallowed hard. That was the moment. That quiet, ripped, or SOMETHING open INSIDE me. "I don't know, baby," I said, crouching down to hug her. "But we love each other, don't we?" She nodded into my shoulder, and I made a silent promise in that moment. They will never feel like this again. Never crumbs, never silence, never shame. I walked out of that house holding both my children's hands. I didn't know where I was going yet, but I knew I would never come back the same. Grief doesn't always arrive with a crash. Sometimes it seeps in slowly, like rot at the root of a tree, unnoticed until the whole thing begins to wither. After that dinner at my parents' house, something in me shut off, not out of spite, not yet. At first it was just numbness. Silence became my comfort. I stopped picking up when my mother called. I stopped replying to Aria's picture, perfect messages in the family group chat. I muted it eventually. No one noticed. That told me everything at work. I kept my head down and smiled just enough to be polite. I worked long shifts at the local clinic as a receptionist, then cleaned office buildings after dark. I came home to sleeping children and empty dishes, bills stacked like questions I didn't know how to answer. The fridge was never full, the heater made strange noises, and the rent went up every spring. Still, I didn't ask for help. I couldn't forget the look on my son's face when he was denied food, or the ache in my daughter's voice when she asked why love had conditions. Some nights I lay awake and wondered if I had done something wrong. Had I been a bad daughter? Had I offended them? Was I too quiet, too plain, too hard to love? But then I remembered the softness in my children's laughter, how they clung to me when I read to them at night, the way they said, "I love you." Like it was a natural law. I wasn't broken. I just came from a family who taught me I had to earn the very things I gave away freely. I confronted my mother once quietly, privately. I took a deep breath, called her, and asked, "Why do you treat my children differently?" There was a pause. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, her voice coated in condescension. "Don't be dramatic. You've always been a little too sensitive." Then she laughed. I hung up and cried for the last time because of her. Aria's life continued to shine on the surface. She posted pictures of her family vacations, perfect birthdays, their newly remodeled kitchen. My children saw the posts when they borrowed my phone. "They have so much," Maya said once. "Are they rich?" "They're just loud about what they have," I replied. "That doesn't mean they're rich." But something inside me shifted that day. I was tired of surviving. I wanted to live, not for revenge, not even for recognition, just to feel like my life was mine again. It started small. I saved every dollar I could, gave up takeout, canceled everything non-essential, sold a few old things, bought a second-hand laptop, and enrolled in an online accounting course. At night, after cleaning bathrooms and kitchens, I studied. I kept my grades up. I finished the certificate, then another, then got a better job at a logistics firm. Entry level, but it paid more and had a future. One day, my manager called me into his office. "You have a good head for this. Ever thought about training for team lead?" It felt strange being seen. Even stranger being believed in. The changes at home were gradual but real. The pantry no longer echoed. Maya started ballet lessons, nothing fancy, just at the community center. And Liam joined a free robotics club. They smiled more, laughed louder, ate without guilt. We still had to be careful, but for the first time in years, I didn't have to choose between heat and groceries. I still didn't speak to my parents, but I heard things. Aria's oldest had been caught cheating at school. Her husband's business was in trouble. She was posting less, looking more tired. My mother left a voicemail one night. "We haven't seen you in a while. Aria is going through so much. Maybe come by and help." I played the message 3 times. Not once did she ask how we were. I didn't reply. One cold evening, as I made dinner roast chicken, a recipe I'd perfected over time, Maya looked up at me. "Mom," she said, "you smile more now." I turned to her, surprised. "Do I?" She nodded. "It makes the food taste better." I felt tears sting, but this time they were warm. They had given me crumbs, but I had learned to grow wheat from dirt. And one day, I would have a table of my own. 3 years later, I was no longer the woman who sat quietly as her children were served scraps. My home was small, but filled with light, warm lamps, soft rugs, a kitchen that smelled of cinnamon and cumin. There were pictures on the walls of Maya in her ballet recital costume, of Liam holding up a science fair trophy, of the 3 of us at the beach last summer. The walls weren't just painted, they were alive with memories we made. My children were thriving. Liam had earned a scholarship to a summer robotics camp. Maya, quiet as ever, had written a poem that made her teacher cry. We didn't have much, but everything we had was ours, and every corner of our life was built from love and labor, not scraps. And then, just as I had stopped thinking about them, they came back. It started with a letter, not an email, not a text, a letter, handwritten in shaky script. "We're not doing well. Your father's condition is worsening. I've fallen. We may have to sell the house. Aria isn't able to help. We didn't know who else to turn to. Can we come stay just for a while?" No apology, no mention of the past, just expectation, cloaked in desperation. My first instinct was to say no. But then I thought of my children, how they watched everything I did, how I had raised them to be kind, not cruel, to be strong but not heartless. So I said yes, with conditions. They arrived with only 2 suitcases and wore not pride. My mother's hair had gone completely white. My father's hands trembled. There was no arrogance left in them, only fatigue. Not once did they meet my eyes as I opened the door. I didn't hug them. I didn't invite them in. I stepped aside, just enough for them to shuffle through. I set out a room for them, clean sheets, warm blankets, and a quiet corner of the house. They stayed there most days, keeping to themselves. My children were polite but distant. They remembered too much. For the first dinner, I made roast chicken, exactly like the one from that long ago Sunday. I set the table with care. Plates, silverware, cloth napkins. The kitchen was filled with laughter and the smell of roasted garlic and thyme. Liam and Maya helped me serve the food, setting the table just the way I taught them. When the food was laid out, I made 2 separate plates, one for my parents, each with a plain slice of bread, and a glass of water, no salt, no seasoning, no sides, just enough. I didn't say a word as I carried the plates to them. They looked at me, my mother with disbelief, my father with something like shame. I held their gaze. This was what my children ate. I said softly, "Do you remember?" Silence. "I'm not here to hurt you," I continued. "But I won't forget how we were treated, and I won't let you pretend it didn't happen." They didn't argue. They didn't apologize either, but the next day, my mother tried to help with the dishes. My father offered to fix the back gate. Small gestures, maybe guilt, maybe gratitude. I didn't ask, because I didn't need their love anymore. I had my own. Months passed. They lived quietly, watched us live fully. They saw Maya twirl through the living room in her ballet shoes. They saw Liam build a robot out of spare parts. They watched me come home from work with a tired smile and still sit down to help with homework. One evening, my father said, almost to himself, "You did well after all." I didn't reply. He needed to say it more than I needed to hear it. One Friday night, we sat down for dinner. All 5 of us, a proper meal, seasoned, warm, shared with laughter. I served my parents real food that night, not because they deserved it, but because I did. I had proven to myself that I could raise my children without bitterness poisoning their joy, that I could carry the weight of betrayal and still walk with grace, that I didn't need revenge carved into someone else's suffering. My revenge was the life I built when no one believed I could. My revenge was 2 children who would never have to ask why they weren't loved. My revenge was peace. After dinner, Liam leaned against me and whispered, "Mom, this is the best chicken you've ever made." I smiled and kissed his forehead. "That's because it's ours."